Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's Monday, May 20th. I'm Heather Holley. Here are your crime headlines. Sean Diddy Combs will not face charges in connection to the disturbing video released this past week. The hotel surveillance footage shows what appears to be the rapper grabbing, kicking, hitting, and dragging his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, as she tried to get on an elevator. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office shared a statement on social media saying Diddy can't be charged if the incident happened in 2016. Because it's, quote, beyond the timeline where a crime of assault can be prosecuted. Diddy previously denied Ventura's assault allegations. He posted an apology video on Instagram Sunday saying, quote, I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. He adds he went to therapy and rehab after this and says he isn't asking for forgiveness, but he is sorry. Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardoned the Army veteran convicted of shooting and killing a Black Lives Matter protester in 2020. A jury convicted Daniel Perry in 2023 for the murder of Garrett Foster. At the time, Perry was working as a rideshare driver when he came up to a Black Lives Matter demonstration in Austin. The Associated Press reports Perry and Foster got into an argument, and Perry then shot Foster. Witnesses say Foster never raised his gun, but Abbott says Perry acted in self-defense. After more than 3 decades, the man dubbed Chimney Doe has his name back. In 1989, the owners of a music store in Madison, Wisconsin discovered a skull while working on their boiler. Upon further investigation, authorities found a complete human skeleton in the pipe. The autopsy at the time determined the remains belonged to a white man between the ages of 18 and 35. They weren't able to ID him then, but investigators did determine the man would not have been able to get in that pipe alone. According to the DNA Doe Project, the victim is Ronnie Joe Kirk. After 2 years of working on the project, they were able to build a DNA profile and ID him. They also learned Kirk was originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but his last known ties were in Madison. Madison police say IDing Kirk is just the first major step in the investigation. Just ahead on Crime Over Wine Weekly, gunfire breaks out at a Mother's Day celebration. What witnesses say an Alabama woman did in her final moments to protect her grandchildren. Plus, new developments in Mica Miller's case. The agency now investigating the 30-year-old's death. But first, let's have a moment of positivity and joy here and check in with Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hello. How are you, Heather?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I am doing well. So, how was Mother's Day?
It was nice. My kids and husband made me little spooky breakfast of French toast shaped like a moon and bats, and that was precious and adorable. And then I spent the day with my mom and grandma and kids, so it was a good day.
Awesome.
How was your special Mother's Day podcast?
It was wonderful, and my mom just loved it. And she really liked the wine that we had, which was one from my hometown, actually. But it was really fun, and I'm glad I got to, open the world of podcasting to my mom.
Yeah. Does she want to do it again? Does she want to fill in again?
I think she would do it. Yeah.
We'll put her on rotation.
Yeah, she can be in the mix.
And I'm bringing some of my Mother's Day to this podcast this week because the wine is actually one my son picked out. He's 6, so he has no idea if he picked anything good, but he is his mother's child and went for the label he liked. This one is the Dark Horse Rosé, and surprise, it has a horse on the label. And his favorite color is red, and it's a pretty bold colored rosé in the bottle, at least. So I'm thinking that was probably his logic of it's the closest one I can see to red, and it has a cool horse. And I'm only 6.
I do really like the bottle. Yeah, I do like the horse on the bottle. It is really neat looking. So tell us about this rosé.
The 2022 Dark Horse Rosé is a dry wine that perfectly captures summer. Subtle aromas of vine-ripe strawberry rise from the glass with an underlying hint of grapefruit. Juicy layers of pomegranate and sliced watermelon brighten the palate, leading to a crisp finish.
All right. Cheers to that. Let's try it out.
I'm nervous about the grapefruit. I am a major grapefruit hater, so...
Yeah, I don't really care for grapefruit either. Not bad, but I do taste the grapefruit.
Yeah, it is there. It is an underlying hint is a good way to describe it. It's not overpowering, but I am aware that it is there. Like that annoying task that you keep putting off, but it stays on your to-do list.
And I think I am tasting the pomegranate. I think that's kind of what is balancing out the grapefruit.
And what's weird for me is I do smell strawberry, but I don't taste it.
Mm-hmm. I'd say for a rosé, this is pretty complex. Like there's a lot going on in it. And usually you get that with the Reds, but
Yeah, it is. It's a good summer. Like, I feel like this would be like a good girls' weekend, either cookout or camping or like staying glamping
Mhm.
if you do that thing where you're just sitting outside, the cicadas screaming because it's that time of year. Nice little fire
And
going.
man, the cicadas here have been screaming at the top of their lungs lately.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't be mad. I get it. If it
Hmm.
were socially acceptable, I'd be right there with them because these past few weeks they've been trying. I don't know if they've been trying for anyone else, but people have been trying me.
I feel that. I feel that so much. All right, as we continue to sip on this dark horse rosé, we're going to continue on with this week's Crime Over Wine Weekly. Coming up, investigators find puzzling clues in the disappearance of a woman in Rhode Island. Plus, the mystery surrounding Mica Miller's death deepens. Hear what her father has to say about what happened to his daughter. Next.
Welcome back. Law enforcement, family, and friends have been searching for Charlotte Lester for 2 years. She was last seen in Warwick, Rhode Island on May 16th, 2022. In the days after Charlotte's disappearance, Charlotte's dog was found wandering alone down a road. About a week later, detectives discovered her truck abandoned outside a hospital, and a search party found several letters addressed to Charlotte in the nearby woods. Charlotte would be 46-year-old right now. She's described as a white woman who's 5'7" with a slim to medium build. She has brown eyes and brown hair, but police say she may be wearing a wig. Police say Charlotte's case is very much active and ask anyone with credible information to come forward. If you know anything about Charlotte Lester's whereabouts, contact Warwick Police at 401-468-4200.
Search efforts are ramping up for a 3-year-old with special needs in Colorado. Amari Galen disappeared from his Rocky Ford home early Saturday morning. The 3-year-old was last seen wearing only a diaper. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation believes he slipped out of the house and walked away on his own. Police say Amari is autistic and considered special needs. Crews have used dogs, drones, vehicles, and teams on foot in the search for Amari. Anyone with information should call the Rocky Ford Police Department at 719-254-3344. And now we are going to continue on a case that we talked about last week. This is about Mica Miller. We talked a lot about it last week, and there's even more updates to talk about this week. So that's why we're staying on this case. Now the FBI has been called in to investigate Mica's death. Authorities say the 30-year-old died by suicide last month. Her body was found in Lumber State River Park in North Carolina on April 27th. Last week, we told you the Robeson County Sheriff's Office ruled her death a suicide based on surveillance video, interviews, physical evidence, and the medical examiner's report. Mica's family has urged authorities to investigate further, alleging her estranged husband abused and groomed Mica. John Paul Miller has denied allegations of abusing or grooming his wife through his attorney. J.P. Miller was a pastor at Solid Rock at Market Common Church in Myrtle Beach. The sheriff's office announced last week that it had requested the assistance of the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI in the investigation of Mica's death. And also, a really big piece that came out last week was Michael Francis, who is Mica's father. He has since done an interview, and he brings up a lot of really good points and things. And I feel like this is something that we should be listening to because it's her father. This is somebody who clearly knows his daughter and can bring a lot of context into the situation. He questioned the bruising that was found on his daughter's hand and injuries. And then also he questioned, there were multiple shell casings found on the scene. Along with a live round. He says this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't really line up with, a suicide. He also felt like a complete autopsy should have been done, along with a complete toxicology. He says that they just did blood alcohol. And then also he criticized John Paul for rushing the cremation, because now, since her body has been cremated, there's not a body to do another autopsy on. And he did say that he believes that John Paul drove his daughter to the brink of suicide. Mica had a history of mental health issues, and her father believes that that John Paul took advantage of that, and instead of kind of helping like a husband should or would do, he believes that John Paul took advantage of the mental state of his daughter. So it's definitely sad. But Heather, I just kind of wanted to hear like your thoughts on this. I don't know how invested you are. I've gone down the Mica Miller rabbit hole many times. It's a really sad, but it's also just a really weird case.
Yeah, the case, I first heard about it on TikTok. Like, it was all over my For You page, and I haven't been that invested in it, because some of the creators that were coming up felt more conspiracy than legitimate questioning of her death. So, the FBI coming in is a pretty big signal that should be taken seriously. They're not going to waste resources like that. And, as you're first reading this and you were saying, based on surveillance video, an autopsy, and all these, it's like, oh, well, that sounds like a very solid case of ruling something. Like, yeah, it's not like they just looked at her and said, oh, yeah, that was a suicide. There was a lot of evidence behind that. But her dad does bring up a lot of really good points. That, like, just the blood alcohol content being tested, that's not an autopsy, right? Like, yes, it's one of the things that the medical examiner would do, but yeah, they're not testing for anything else that was in her system. Like, it's not really diving into the cause of death, the bullet placement, where the gun would have had to have been positioned, how many bullets were found in her, if any. Were they through and through? Like, was there a casing or a shell, no, bullet lodged in her still? So yeah, that's a lot of very, very good questions that I'm glad that even in this moment of grief, he's able to bring those forward. And somebody had to have pushed the right buttons for the FBI to get involved. So I'm very impressed with her family to still push for justice with it being so fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. And her other family members have also just been just as vocal. She had said prior to her death, even just days before her death, if a bullet ends up in my head, John Paul did it. And, I said this last week when I was discussing this case with my mom. I feel like if one of my family members said something similar, I would be exactly like how they are. And I would be raising every question and wanting everything to be investigated fully, because someone doesn't just say that. You know what I mean?
Even if she had a history of mental illness, if she was at that point where she's saying things like that would be considered alarming, where she blatantly feared for her life, um, it feels like there should have been some kind of crisis intervention beforehand. You would have reported that. I know, I mean, here we have our law enforcement, a lot of the officers are CIT trained, but then we also have just a crisis co-responder unit that responds to these types of calls specifically. So they where are they at?
Lived in South Carolina, like Myrtle Beach, but she drove to just over the line into North Carolina, and that's kind of where this happened.
But Myrtle Beach is a fairly big city and it's a lot. So saying something like that in Myrtle Beach, I feel like there should have been some kind of crisis intervention capability. And if her husband is hearing these things, he should have tried to intervene and get help. So I know that horrible people exist and that they do take advantage of people with mental illness. But what I'm curious about is there a state or federal law where if they can prove that he deliberately manipulated her and drove her to suicide, if he didn't physically pull the trigger himself, can he still be legally held accountable?
Well, and yeah, and we've seen that in the I can't remember exactly where it happened, but it was a teenager, and there was a boy that died by suicide in his truck, and it was in the case was that she had manipulated him. He already was suicidal, and she kind of took advantage of that and was texting him and essentially like made him commit suicide. And she was, there that went through the court process. And so um we are starting to see cases where people are being held accountable in that sense. So it would be interesting here. I do think it would not surprise me if Micah's family brought forth a civil suit, like a wrongful death civil suit. And the bar isn't as high as like what it is like in a criminal trial. It's it's the bar is lower on the civil side, but I could see them bringing a wrongful death lawsuit in a civil sense in this case.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think they should, no matter what, whether they find evidence and he's charged or not. I still feel they are warranted a civil lawsuit and definitely should pursue that. Um, because yeah, even if he didn't kill her, he should have been aware of her mental state enough to do something as her husband to help and not
Mhm.
encourage it.
So we'll see. We'll continue to follow this one, and we'll bring you any updates that come out of it. But yeah, the Mica Miller rabbit hole continues to deepen.
After the break, a 16-year-old girl and her baby are missing in Wisconsin, where the critically endangered teen and infant were last seen. Plus, a young man with autism disappeared after moving states to be with his boyfriend. Why his mother fears something bad happened to him.
Authorities in Wisconsin are searching for a 16-year-old girl and her infant son. Milwaukee police say 16-year-old Camilla Stewart and her 8-month-old Kyrie were last seen Sunday morning near the intersection of 65th and West Florist Avenue. Police say Camilla is considered to be critically missing. Camilla is described as a black female, 5 foot 3 inches tall, around 125 pounds, slim built with black braided hair, brown eyes, and last seen wearing an orange hooded top. Kyrie is a black male wearing a gray outfit with white shoes. If you have any information about Camilla and Kyrie Stewart, call Milwaukee Police at 414-935-7242.
A Pennsylvania family is desperate for answers in the disappearance of their 21-year-old son with autism. Sam Hogg's mother tells WSOC he moved to Charlotte on April 1st to be with his boyfriend he met online. Sam kept in contact until April 26th. Sam's mother says the last text he sent her was about a new medication he was on. On May 5th, Sam's family filed a missing persons report. That same day, his boyfriend was found dead, and police ruled it a suicide. Sam's mother is concerned his disappearance and the boyfriend's death are connected. The boyfriend had a violent history and was released from prison last October. If you have any information in this case, call the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police at 704-336-5729. And in Alabama, a Mother's Day celebration ended with the murder of the family's matriarch. On the evening of May 12th, about 40 people were at Gloria Cruz's home in Montgomery. AL.com reports someone walked up to the home and opened fire on the outdoor gathering. Witnesses say the 64-year-old rushed to get the children inside the house when she heard the gunfire. She was shot in the neck and fell to the ground. Gloria was pronounced dead on the scene. Gloria Cruz was a mother, grandmother, caretaker, and beloved community member. At the time of her death, she was helping raise a 6-year-old nephew as well as caring for her 84-year-old mother after her pastor father died just a couple of months ago. Karen Morrow was a longtime friend and says Gloria had a, quote, servant's heart for the Lord. At this time, police don't have a motive or suspect, but AL.com reports Cruz was not the intended target. Crime Stoppers of Central Alabama is offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in Gloria's murder. 2 Montgomery City Council members are also offering an additional $15,000, bringing the reward to $16,000. If you have any information in the murder of Gloria Cruz, call Central Alabama Crime Stoppers at 334-215-7867.
This is heartbreaking. Oh my gosh.
I know, and it's kind of weird because there's not a whole lot of reporting on it either, but from all the stories I've read about Gloria, she was this light in the community. She helped people. She was known to work 3 jobs to help take care of this 6-year-old that she was helping raise right now. She's 64 years old, and her first instinct was to get the babies inside, to protect all of them. And
like 40 people at a gathering, there's witnesses. I mean, you can't tell me that none of those people didn't recognize the person or persons who did this. I mean, this is just insane. And exactly with what police are saying, the person came there to target someone else. So it's like I feel like someone's not talking here. And that is just terrible. You know, the fact that this wonderful woman who is just living her life, you know, doing what she can, that she lost her life. Like, someone needs to speak up if they know something. You know what I mean? Don't let this woman's death go unsolved because of the code of silence. You know what I mean?
How I interpreted it was that, you know, the 40 people that were there, that this was a family situation. The guilt of your family member died and you were the target has to be, it's incomprehensible to me of that being a possibility, but maybe it was more like a neighborhood party thing. But how I've interpreted what I read was that it was a family celebration, that this was her family gathered for Mother's Day. She should have been one of the major ones being celebrated. Instead, she got shot in the neck and laid there bleeding in front of everyone and died there. And I'm really hoping that it's more of a case that the people who were there did see someone, and police have almost everything they need, but they need like just that tiny bit more evidence or witness statement to really lock in an arrest.
You know, the fact that whoever the shooter is, that they had no problem with walking into a big gathering where there's children, where there's elderly people. You know, they didn't care. They were so mad and angry and essentially had tunnel vision, you know, that they were fine with walking into that situation and firing a gun. So that is someone that needs to be off the street, you know, because if that doesn't deter you, then you're a dangerous person. You don't care who you put into danger and who is around. Like, it doesn't matter. And people like that don't need to be out walking around with weapons, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And I forgot where I've heard the statistics, so I can't properly attribute this to anyone. Typically, Mother's Day is one of the least violent days of the year. So for this person to be so driven to commit such a violent act with that many innocent lives at stake, that is a very dangerous person. Because, like, there's typically this kind of respect and love for mothers still, that you should be showing your support and appreciation to her and everything she's done for you, not walking up to somebody else's home and murdering a woman who has done nothing but give her whole life.
Exactly. Wow. I hope that they catch the person responsible sooner rather than later.
For sure. Both of our cases were very sad this week. I mean, I guess that's kind of the purpose of this podcast, but I kind of forget I forget how sad our content is.
It fires you up inside, because it's just like, this is so unfair and this should not be happening. And just at the end of the day, there's value in life, you know?
Yeah.
So as I've been sipping on this, I will say it has gotten easier, and the grapefruit has toned down since I've been drinking it. I do like it.
When you say sipping, I think you mean chugging. Like, you are throwing that back.
I have not been chugging, but I have been actively sipping. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, it's good. I don't drink carbonated beverages anymore, but I do think like a little drop of Sprite in this would give it some razzle dazzle. Or have you heard of wine slushies? Like those are a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
like this would be a good wine slushy option.
Yeah, there is like frosés. There's actually like a place around here that's all they serve is frosé.
What?
Yeah,
Field trip.
we'll have to go and get you one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. My son did good.
He
So,
did. You are gonna have to tell him wonderful Mother's Day present.
yeah, I may have to let him pick because this is better than the other ones that I've picked.
Well, this episode has been so much fun. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their day to listen. And if you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine Weekly, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And we'll see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly. Ta-ta.
Bye!
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.